Discover the 10 most incredible punishments by the gods that transformed lives in surprising ways. Emily's hands trembled as she flipped through the brittle pages of her grandmother's journal. Letters spilling out like secrets shrouded for too long. The pain in her chest tightened, an ache that went beyond exhaustion from juggling 2 jobs and a gifted son. She felt the weight of an unjust feud, a family legacy tarnished by the elitists of Maplewood. It filled her with desperation. Should she confront the town's powerful, or play it safe and protect the connections that had sustained her through the darkest times? As she leaned against the attic wall, the smell of dust enveloped her like a shroud, and she could hear the whispers of residents echoing in her mind. They appreciated her kindness, her tireless work, yet they overlooked her talents, painting a picture of a life confined to the grind of nursing aide shifts and late-night serve jobs. What if her family's artistry was a part of her identity waiting to be recognized? Could she risk it all for a chance at reclaiming their honor at the cost of her current standing? The questions gnawed at her like unwelcome demons that in the midst of this turmoil, a familiar face reemerged. Mr. Thompson, the retired art professor whose gentle encouragement once stirred her aspirations, appeared at her doorstep one evening. His presence was both a comfort and a source of crushing pressure. "You have the talent, Emily," he affirmed, eyes glimmering with belief. "You just need to step out of the shadows." The memory of her lost artistic voice echoed in her mind. Flooded with joyous colors and strokes of paint, she had tucked away for the sake of stability and security. His words ignited an ember she thought had long been snuffed out, yet fear held her back. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Those simple words distracted her momentarily, but reality crashed back in. With the exhibit date looming, the pressure mounted. Her brushes danced over the canvas, the paint splattering like a release. Yet each stroke reminded her of how many would criticize her boldness. The very community that nurtured her felt stifling now, their smiles masking something darker, a fear of what her artwork might reveal. Even Jake's wide eyes as he stood beside her seemed to plead for safety. "Mom, are you sure about this?" His voice was barely a whisper, trembling as he sought assurance. Their bond, already tested by his challenges with school and feeling invisible in a system that didn't cherish geniuses like him, hung precariously on the brink of this impending storm. Emily paused, brush hovering, inundated by doubts flooding her mind. Should she stand up for their family legacy, risk everything, and challenge the status quo? There was a haunting urgency in every undecided moment, pulses of anxiety yet unacknowledged. The thoughts intertwined like vines, choking her resolve tighter. Would she be accepted? Or would fate punish them both for daring to shake the foundations of Maplewood's unyielding comfort? The concoction of pressure tightened around her, suffocating yet exhilarating. She could almost hear her grandmother whispering through time, urging her to claim what was rightfully theirs. The emotional weight of the night thickened like the storm clouds assembling on the horizon, leaving Emily to confront the ultimate dilemma, a choice between her family's artistic heritage and the fear of repercussions from the very town she longed to be a part of. As the stakes rose, so too did her determination amidst this swirling tempest of internal conflict. The breath held between every heartbeat stilled, waiting for the moment of truth to unravel. The morning light barely pierced through the window as Emily stared blankly at the canvas before her. Splatters of paint resembling a battlefield of emotions. Each hue held a memory, a whisper of her suppressed dreams. But today those dreams seemed ensnared in a web of apprehension. She swiped the paintbrush across the surface with a sudden ferocity, yet the art still felt like a reflection of her anxieties. It felt half-formed and chaotic. Jake's voice broke through her thoughts again, a gentle prod that reminded her of the weight lingering in the air. "Are we really going to show this to everyone?" His small frame leaned against the door, arms crossed, an image of uncertain hope. Seeing him like this, the way his eyes searched hers for reassurance strained something deep inside her. A rush of guilt flooded her senses. She was meant to lead, to inspire him, not to let her fears waver the foundations of their shared reality. "Yes, honey, we are," she replied, attempting to infuse courage into her words, though they felt brittle. The implied force behind her response didn't ease her internal storm. What would it mean for him if she failed? What if they faced rejection not just as a mother and son but as embodiments of the legacy she feared too deeply to embrace fully? Days passed, and the pressure grew like a roller coaster inching towards the inevitable drop. It was only when she caught sight of her grandmother's ornate necklace tucked away in the attic that the whispers of the past rushed to her side. The elegance of it symbolized the artistry and passion that once flowed freely in the family, long before Maplewood twisted its values into conformity. Clenching the necklace, a spark ignited in her irrepressible spirit. The decision crystallized amidst an array of confusion. She had to reclaim the narrative. Perhaps she wasn't meant to surrender to the expectations of a community that had forgotten where it came from. Rather than merely existing within the constrictions of fear, she needed to embrace the risks and take control of her identity not just for herself but for Jake, too. That evening, Emily thrust herself into a whirlwind of creativity, fueled by the revitalizing energy that came with purpose. She painted with a vigor she hadn't felt in years, colors exploding across the canvas like fireworks celebrating life. The transformative catharsis flooded her system, washing away doubts, each brushstroke striking against the stifling chorus of disapproval lingering from the town. However, the exhilarating high soon twisted into a double-edged sword. While Emily painted with determined resolve, the looming exhibit mere weeks away beckoned her mind back to the fears she had pushed aside. Their faces, those of the townsfolk, loomed large. What if this stood as an affront to their sensibilities? Would they finally recognize her, or would her work ignite wrath? As she neared the finish of her latest piece, a portrait honoring her grandmother, a deep sigh escaped her. This was not just an act of creation. It was an act of rebellion. She felt a paradox within. With every stroke, her fear mingled with exhilaration, a delicious uncertainty. Amidst this conflict, Jake peeked into the room, the weight of his expression heavy with concern. "Mom, you okay?" The two words unraveled the layers of her doubt, inviting her to confront the storm brewing within. In that moment, clarity washed over her. Yet the truth was stark. As she worked to reclaim her artistic legacy, she could not do it alone. She needed to share her journey with Jake, to let him in on the chaos that was both frightening and beautiful. Their shared dives into the uncharted waters of vulnerability could strengthen their bond, allowing her to lead him not just in success but through the tangles of understanding one must embrace when attempting to redefine oneself. The door swung wide open, and she took a deep breath, ready to open up about her fears and aspirations with her son. "Jake, let us talk about this together." At that moment, uncertainty danced around them as if preparing for both resolve and possible disaster. Would he embrace her truth, or would he fear for their future like so many others? With her heart pounding, she stepped forward, ready to break down the walls that had kept them both afloat yet isolated. The storm surged as she prepared to navigate this tumultuous yet vital conversation, a voyage from which neither of them could turn back. As Emily faced Jake, the world outside faded, leaving only the heartbeat of anticipation echoing between them. She felt exposed, a raw nerve in a landscape of doubts. But it was time to relinquish the control that tight-fisted grip had stolen from them both. "Jake, I want to tell you about why this project means so much to me," she began, her voice steadier than her heart. He nodded, his wide eyes inviting her to continue, and in that moment, Emily saw the child he was, innocent yet yearning for truth. She took a breath, sifting through glimmers of her past while anchoring herself in the present. "My grandmother was an artist. Her paintings were filled with emotion, laughter, grief, joy. She didn't care what others thought. She created for herself. That's what I want to do, Jake. I need to create for me. For us," she concluded, holding his gaze, searching for understanding. Jake's brow furrowed, his fingers fidgeting nervously. "But what if they don't like it?" What if they laugh at us? His question landed heavy, a weight she would have borne alone a week ago. They might, she admitted, but isn't it better to be true to ourselves than to hide in their shadows? Jake's silence told her more than words ever could. He was weighing the gravity of the idea. The push and pull of public acceptance against personal truth was no simple calculation for a boy with dreams carved from the same fabric as her own. He began, pausing with uncertainty. I want you to be happy. And in that moment, a realization struck. Jake was not just afraid for himself, but for her too, the delicate dance between parent and child where each felt the other's burdens. Emily could see the seeds of courage mingling with fear within him, blooming into a rich opportunity for connection. Then let us take this leap together, she suggested, feeling the electrifying determination ignite like a comet. We can support each other, regardless of what happens. The tension in the air shifted slightly as Jake processed her words, his youthful spirit emerging from the shadows of long-held fears. Okay, he responded, his voice imbued with not just acceptance but a hint of resolve. Really? Really? She assured him, her heart swelling with pride. It was a pact, an unspoken promise to navigate the tumultuous waters ahead side by side. With renewed purpose, they returned to the canvas, the once daunting expanse now a place of shared dreams. As she worked, Emily guided Jake's hand with gentle precision, teaching him not just about the brush strokes but delving into the deeper meaning behind them. Together, they infused colors with stories of resilience, transforming the chaotic splatters into a magnificent tapestry that encapsulated both their struggles and triumphs. Yet, as masks of joy adorned their work, a shadow crept at the edges of their blossoming collaboration. The exhibit loomed like a specter in the night, and suddenly it wasn't just about competing for acceptance. It was a reflection of all they were willing to stake in pursuit of authenticity. As Emily layered paint and emotions, the town's thick expectations began to curl in the corners of her mind. Criticism, doubt, perhaps an outright rejection of everything she had come to reclaim. Doubt stung her thoughts like a needle, each jab threatening to unravel the canvas of newfound strength she and Jake crafted together. Mom, do you think they'll understand? Jake's question barely pierced the silence, but it reverberated through Emily's core. Would understanding even be the goal? Tension braided the air as she paused, paintbrush suspended mid-stroke. I hope so, but sometimes people don't see what you want them to see until they feel it first. As dusk cloaked the room, Emily realized that the impending reveal was not merely about art. It was about voicing their truth, confronting the tide of societal expectations, and perhaps, more importantly, redefining their existence in a world that had long dictated terms. With the upcoming days, the pressures would mount further still, forcing them both to confront not just the canvas, but themselves. And in that profound knowing, she turned to Jake. We need to be ready for any outcome. His answer filled the gaps of her uncertainty, igniting a flicker of daring between them. We will be. But would their shared courage be enough to weather the storm of doubt and expectation? As they painted, she wondered how much more they would uncover of themselves. Together, what truths lay in the depths yet unreached, poised to erupt as they approached the precipice of everything they stood for. They would face the world soon enough, armed with a determination forged in this critical moment. Emily smiled knowingly, aware that their journey had just begun. Emily awoke the next morning with a weight pressing down on her chest. The promise she made to Jake echoed in her mind, intertwining with the lingering fears of vulnerability she struggled to suppress. Would their art truly reflect their authentic selves, or would it be a hollow facade, a soldier dressed for battle yet unprepared for the fight? As morning sun poured through the kitchen window, casting warm light on their paintings, she poured a cup of coffee and sat at the table. Jake's laughter floated from the studio. He was experimenting with colors, likely lost in his own happy world. It filled her with both pride and apprehension. Today they would dive deeper into their work. She wanted to guide him to transform the blank canvas into something genuine. But could she truly help him without confronting her own inhibitions? Determined to channel her fear into creativity, she returned to the studio. Jake was capturing some wild color combinations. His enthusiasm was infectious. "Mom, look," he said, his face a blend of excitement and concentration. "What do you think?" She stepped closer, examining the chaotic burst of colors that somehow mirrored the confusion brewing inside her. "It's beautiful. But remember, what matters most is the story you want to tell through this piece." His youthful confidence was matched by an intuitive sense to explore his emotions through art. It was a stark reminder of the road she had to traverse. "Can you show me how to do that?" he asked, eyes wide in hope. Her heart raced. Could she really guide him to articulate what she herself struggled to express? "Let us try something different today. Tell me about a moment you experienced that made you feel something strong, happiness, sadness, anything." Jake paused, his young face knitting in concentration. I remember when we went to the amusement park," he began, reliving the memory. "I was scared to go on the big roller coaster, like really scared. But then we did, and it was amazing. I felt free, like I could fly." Freedom. The word resonated with Emily, stirring something buried deep within. She smiled, feeling an unexpected surge of hope. "Let us capture that feeling. Your fear led to your freedom, a powerful transformation. Use these colors to express it." As they painted, Emily became increasingly aware of her tendency to cling to perfection, to control the outcome rather than enjoy the process. Each brushstroke they made together felt symbolic, an unraveling of old patterns. Jake created swirls of bright yellow and rich blue, while she filled in the gaps, blending soft greens that represented growth and renewal. Yet, as the layers took shape, a voice within Emily echoed, questioning her intent. Was this journey towards authenticity or simply another attempt to gain acceptance, albeit from her own child? The doubt gnawed at her, intensifying with every stroke, until finally her brush fell from her hand, splattering paint across the canvas. It was a conscious act of defiance against control, a moment of embracing imperfection. "I think it looks better like this," she admitted, the bravado lacing her words. It was liberating to acknowledge she didn't have to have all the answers. Jake peered at her, unsure yet intrigued. "Was that on purpose?" "Absolutely," she chuckled, leaning into the spontaneity. "It's more real this way. It shows our journey, complete with ups and downs." Suddenly, her own breakthrough surged. Painting wasn't just for the exhibit or for validation. It was about excavating deep-rooted emotions and sharing them unabashedly, no matter the outcome. Courage flickered in her heart like a flame threatening to expand. With every splash of paint, the stakes were higher, but so too was the growth. "Let us keep going," she declared. "Let us make it wild and free, just like you felt on that roller coaster." As Jake engaged with renewed fervor, Emily's thoughts raced. This wasn't about what others expected. It was about discovering who they truly were, merging fears and awe into one single truth, an uncompromising representation of both mother and hours. Past, they emerged triumphantly from their cocoon of creativity, standing back to admire their work. The canvas pulsed with energy, an authentic testament to their shared journey. Yet another whisper haunted Emily. Could this be enough? The question lingered, swirling amidst the triumph of the moment, suggesting that their journey was far from over. Would they be brave enough to share this piece with the world, with all of its imperfections? Her heart could sense an approaching hurricane of emotions, one that could either elevate them or leave them feeling deflated. But she would not shy away. Emily looked at Jake, who was beaming with pride. "We're ready for any outcome, right?" He nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "Then let us prepare ourselves for the challenge ahead," she responded, feeling the tether of anxiety intertwine with resolve. The storm was coming, and the truth beckoned fiercely. What lay on the horizon remained uncertain, but she knew, for better or worse, they would face it together and, perhaps, discovery awaited them in the depths of their vulnerability. As the days unfolded, Emily found herself enveloped in the intoxicating freedom she had tasted during their painting session. Each moment spent with Jake ignited a flame within her, a spark of creativity intertwined with an unsettling undercurrent of doubt. Would this newfound passion lead to transformation, or would the obstacles of her past stifle their progress? Her thoughts ricocheted between exhilaration and trepidation. With each stroke of paint, She sensed the possibility of revelation, a chance to engage her true self. Yet, the specter of critique hovered over her, refusing to dissipate. What if their work was inadequate, or worse, what if it failed to resonate with anyone but themselves? Pushing the doubts aside, Emily decided that a structured approach might be beneficial. With Jake's enthusiasm for art ramping up, she needed to harness it, transforming that energy into a shared project that could serve as both a journey of self-discovery and a possible vehicle for their emotions. She envisioned hosting a small showcase in their community, an intimate gathering where they could reveal their art to a select few. Jake, she suggested one afternoon, hatching her plan with palpable excitement. What if we organized a little art show? Just friends and family. It would be a way to share what we've been creating together. Celebrate our journey. He beamed with the idea, bouncing on his toes. That's awesome. We could invite Mrs. Johnson and Tommy and everyone. As they delved into the logistics, Emily felt a swell of pride. This wasn't just another box to tick off, but rather an opportunity for them both to confront their insecurities publicly. With each invitation signed and sealed, she envisioned the moment they would reveal their work. A mixture of red-hot anxiety and a cooling tremor of excitement spiraled within her. Yet, as the days passed and anticipation grew, lingering worries crept back in. How could she encourage Jake's artistic voice when her own felt so muted? The voice of self-doubt reminded her of past failures, the critique that chipped away at her confidence, the moments she had chosen practicality over passion. In the quiet of the evening, just after she kissed Jake goodnight, she confronted the looming shadow of her insecurities. Did she truly believe in the authenticity of their work, or was she merely seeking validation? The once steady flame of courage flickered, producing an intense fracture of uncertainty. Her determination was put to the test. For hours, she surrounded herself with unfinished canvases, desperate for clarity, for insight that might illuminate the path ahead. Every time she reached for a brush, the image of the impending show loomed larger, heavy with expectations. Would this be the moment she poured out her vulnerability and risked rejection, or one that buried her deeper in fear? In the waning hours of the night, after what felt like countless attempts, she found herself whispering to the canvas, "This is real. I need you to be real." With a newfound clarity, she felt an impulse to abandon plans for calculated perfection. Wouldn't the artwork reflect their authenticity if it embraced the imperfections just as they had done? The following morning, armed with resolve, Emily gathered the momentum to paint her fears onto the canvas. She splashed vibrant colors in chaotic formations, allowing her emotions to guide her. With each bold stroke, the whispers of doubt turned into affirmations of release. As she poured herself into her work, an exhilarating sense of vulnerability began to emerge, exposing layers of herself she had been too afraid to unveil. Yet, with every brushstroke, she considered what awaited them on the night of the show. Would they be embraced or lay bare before a harsh audience? Later that week, as the small gathering of friends and family arrived, Emily's heart raced. Each piece they hung on the walls seemed to pulse with life, reflecting their shared journey while mirroring her own battles. The doorbell rang, and they stepped into the uncertain realm of visibility, standing on the precipice of potential recognition or rejection. At that moment, uncertainty twisted through Emily, knotting her stomach. Would she take that leap? But what waited beyond the door? With deep breaths, she steadied herself. It was merely an invitation to reveal their truth. As Jake shifted beside her, excitement radiating, she realized this was more than just a showcase. It was their declaration of existence, unfiltered and unapologetic. The moment arrived when she would have to confront not only the outside world but the reflections of her journey laid bare. How would they respond? With trepidation mixing with an unexplainable sense of bravery, she opened the door. What lay before them would either solidify their bond or unravel it. Would she find courage in the exposure, or would she be overwhelmed by the judgment of others? The door swung open, and Emily's breath caught in her throat as the warmth of her friends and family enveloped her. The released tension of holding all those expectations faded just a bit, allowing a glimmer of hope to light her heart. The faces before her radiated enthusiasm, welcoming her and Jake into their circle of support. Yet, as each guest glided through the threshold, an echo of self-doubt still reverberated in her mind. Could this be the moment that defined her? Jake's hand squeezed hers reassuringly, but that small gesture felt overshadowed by the rising tide of anxiety within her. Every time she engaged with someone, they would inevitably seek to discuss her art, her journey, her very essence laid bare. Did she have the strength to handle the scrutiny? With an inner resolve, Emily decided to embrace the uncertainty. She turned to find Jake, adorned in vibrant colors resembling their canvases. His excitement was palpable, contagious, and for a moment, she was swept away in that tide of enthusiasm. Together they maneuvered through the gathering, thrumming with buoyant energy. Each interaction nudged her towards the realization that this was a celebration of their growing selves, not solely an exhibition for judgment. As she helped Jake introduce their work to guests, Emily experienced subtle shifts within herself. Engaging about the intricacies that fueled her creativity began to feel empowering, almost exhilarating. She found herself discussing the imperfections woven into their pieces, how those flaws showcased their artistic journey. With every compliment, she felt a layer of her insecurities peel away. They didn't dwell on the outcomes, but appreciated the unfurling of their stories. "Tell me about this one," a friend exclaimed, gesturing toward Emily's painting. It was a raw piece, unmistakably reflective of her struggles and fears, swirls of vivid colors clashing yet harmonizing throughout. With a mix of trepidation and newfound boldness, she began to share. "This represents the chaos within me, the push and pull between confidence and doubt." As the words poured out, she realized they weren't just explanations. They were affirmations of her growth. Each conversation became a window, allowing glimpses of her evolving self. With every laugh and shared insight, Emily felt a unifying thread emerging amid the swirling energy of the room. They were not just observers of her art but co-explorers of the vulnerability that had birthed it. As the night progressed, the crowd began to engage with Jake's work, a playful yet poignant interpretation of childhood innocence caught in the grasp of reality. With each engagement, she witnessed him emerge, his voice growing clearer and more fearless in articulating the inspiration behind his pieces. Emily felt a swell of pride, a shared triumph of transformation for both of them. Yet as Jake's laughter danced around the gathering, Emily couldn't shake off a shadow lurking in her heart. This was a poignant moment for her, but the glitch of old fears stirred within, whispering doubts about the permanence of their newfound confidence. Was she equipped to sustain this growth? What awaited her when the applause faded? As the night drew to a close, guests began to filter out, their praises trailing behind them like warm rays of sunlight. Emily watched each familiar face leave, noting the beams of light that flickered in their eyes. It became increasingly difficult to shake the feeling that something was about to shift. Jake turned to her, his gaze searching. "Did you feel that? The way they responded? We really showed them our truth." Nodding, Emily tried to capture the exhilaration in his voice, channeling it into a resolve to move forward. Yet her own unease loomed larger. What if the doubts resurfaced once the adrenaline faded? The uncertainty hung around her as a persistent shadow, demanding attention. In that moment, she understood this journey was just beginning. The courage she had summoned tonight might flicker away unless she actively nurtured it. As they put the last of the framed pieces back in their designated spots, Emily felt the weight of a new challenge emerging, one that would test not only her artistic confidence but the very essence of her identity. What would their next step be? With the night bearing witness to their evolution, she knew the door had opened, but was she ready to step through the forthcoming labyrinth of discovery? As the door clicked shut behind the last guest, the vibrancy of the evening gave way to an echoing silence. The remnants of laughter and conversation floated in the air like ghosts, and Emily felt the weight of the night settle heavily upon her shoulders. In the quiet aftermath, the jolt of exhilaration she had felt began to wane, revealing a current of doubt that thrummed insistently at the back of her mind. Jake stood a few feet away, lost in his thoughts as he meticulously arranged their leftover pieces. A part of her wanted to revel in the aftermath of their success, but another part churned with unease. The night had ignited something in her, yet she felt tethered to a fear that it was all too fleeting. Was this surge of confidence just a mirage? A brief flicker before the shadows reclaimed her? "Hey!" Jake's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. He looked up with a genuine smile, the kind that radiated warmth and unwavering belief in their potential. "You were phenomenal tonight. I could see how much you connected with everyone. They felt your art, M." His words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, but the flicker of uncertainty remained. "But was it real?" she countered softly, unsure of her ability to maintain this newfound confidence. "What happens when the applause fades and it's just us? Just me?" Jake stepped closer, his brow furrowing in thought. "It's a process. What you felt tonight doesn't just vanish. You need to cultivate it, like nourishing a plant. Give it sunlight, water, take risks." Emily mulled over his analogy. In many ways, she had always preferred to hide in the shadows, safely shielded from critique. Yet, the image of nurturing her art as if it were a living thing sparked something within her, a tentative flicker of curiosity, of challenge. "But what if I fail?" she questioned, grappling with the gut-wrenching fear of failure that had loomed throughout her life. "What if the next piece isn't as good? What happens then?" "Then you learn," Jake said, a hint of determination in his tone. "This isn't just about the outcome. It's about the journey, learning from the mistakes and adjusting. You can't hesitate to chase your vision out of fear." His unwavering belief stirred her, igniting a glimmer of resolve. Could it be that simple? Could the key to her personal evolution align with embracing not only her artistry, but also her vulnerability in the face of judgment? The next morning, with the dawn casting soft rays through her studio window, Emily picked up her brush. The blank canvas loomed before her with infinite possibilities. Yet instead of retreating, she leaned in, embracing the challenge. There was power in the uncertainty, freedom in the approach. As she began to paint, strokes turned chaotic and raw, an intentional choice to reflect her internal discord. This was more than creating art. It was her process of self-discovery in motion. With every stroke, she confronted the layers of herself she'd previously shied away from, expressing both her triumphs and her failures. Days turned into weeks, each painting an exploration of courage woven into her narrative. The once daunted canvas transformed into her safe space, a sanctuary where vulnerability became her strength. Yet, as her creations evolved, so did the stakes. She contemplated how to reveal them, not just privately but to a broader audience. In the midst of this growth, a tantalizing opportunity surfaced. A local gallery wanted to showcase emerging talent. Her heart raced, but so did her apprehension. What if she stepped forward and it wasn't accepted? Was she ready to face such potential criticism head-on? Focused on the paint drying on her brush, Emily wrestled with a decision that could transform her burgeoning confidence into a definitive turning point. Should she leap into the unknown, opening herself up for public scrutiny, or would she instead retreat into the comfortable cocoon of anonymity that so many artists clung to? The choices felt monumental, the desire to move forward fighting against the instinct to shield herself. The moment of truth hung in the air, gathering momentum, setting the stage for an inevitable confrontation with both her aspirations and fears. With Jake's encouraging words echoing in her mind, she understood that the door to growth was wide open, but stepping through became her greatest test yet. What would she ultimately choose? And could she truly handle the consequences? As she stood before her latest painting, uncertainty loomed once more, primed to reveal its true face. A confrontation with herself awaited just beyond the horizon. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across her cluttered studio, Emily stared at her latest painting, the colors vibrant yet chaotic. Each layer told a story, and yet, she felt an overwhelming urge to hide it away, tuck it under the protective cover of her fears. The gallery's invitation lingered in her mind like a persistent itch, an enticing challenge that propelled her toward growth yet balanced precariously on the edge of dread. Emily paced the space, grappling with the tension building in her chest. The excitement she had initially felt quickly morphed into a gnawing anxiety. She envisioned standing amidst a crowd, eyes scrutinizing her work, dissecting her vulnerability with each whispered critique. It was a fear wrapped tightly around her ambitions, constricting her breath, telling her it would be easier to disappear into the shadows, where no one could judge her. A crash echoed from a distant corner, yanking her back to the present. It was just a paint bucket tipping over, but the sound reverberated through her mind like a metaphor for her life. If she did not introduce a little chaos, how could she expect to discover the beautiful mistakes that often lay beneath the surface? Finding a crisp page in a sketchbook, she jotted down the gallery name, her heart racing as she wrote, "Emerging Artists Showcase." With each stroke of the pen, doubt whispered warnings, but beneath it, a small voice urged her forward. What if this was the opportunity she needed to cement her identity as an artist? To finally authenticate her journey beyond the confines of her studio? Grabbing her phone, she flicked through her contacts, biting her lip as Jake's name appeared. He had been her rock, the unwavering tide of encouragement that swept her out of her comfort zone. Hesitation gripped her hand above the screen. What if he thought it was ill-advised? What if he questioned her readiness? Dismissing the thoughts, she pressed the call button. "Hey, Emily, what's up?" His warm voice instantly soothed her nerves. "I got the invite," she confessed, her words rushing out like air from a balloon. "Tell me you're going for it." I don't know, Jake. What if it's a disaster? What if they don't see what I see? If you don't take risks, you'll never find out what you're really capable of. Forget about the potential for rejection. Think about the growth that comes from putting yourself out there. That's the true art. His words swirled around her, pushing through her walls of self-doubt. But what if my art isn't enough? What if it doesn't resonate with them? Art isn't about pleasing the masses. It's about expressing yourself. The moment you paint for validation is the moment you lose the purity of your passion. Jake reassured, his voice steady with conviction. He was right. The inner turmoil placated slightly as she finally acknowledged that this journey was meant to be personal instead of sharing a piece for approval. She could showcase it as a celebration of who she had become. After hanging up, Emily felt a shift within. What if she approached the gallery not with dread, but with the anticipation of learning something new about herself? Painting had already unveiled layers of her spirit. Perhaps sharing it publicly was the next brushstroke in her evolution. That night, she returned to her canvas. The colors felt alive, almost beckoning her to experiment with bold strokes and even bolder concepts. Her arms moved fluidly, releasing the fear that had once gripped her. Maybe failure was an essential ingredient in success. Perhaps the gallery wasn't just about showcasing her work, but an opportunity to step into the light and confront her fears head-on. With each stroke, her resolve solidified. She would send in her application, risking exposure for the chance to explore the possibility of recognition and acceptance beyond her own expectations. She cleaned her brushes and headed to bed. A new kind of anticipation thrummed in her chest, mingling with the remnants of doubt. She had made a choice and was willing to face whatever came. Next, Emily awoke the following morning, ready to submit her application, determined, uneasy, but undeniably inspired. Yet as she composed her email, a sudden story from her past crept into her thoughts, a memory of rejection that threatened to derail her momentum. Would that experience linger like a fog, or would she break through it to emerge stronger than ever? With the cursor hovering over the send button, she could sense the threshold of change within her grasp. Would she push through and embrace the discomfort, or could her trepidation override her burgeoning drive? The moment hung palpably, an intersection between past pain and future potential. Emily took a deep breath, her finger quivering as it hovered over the send button. The weight of her past rejection pressed down on her like a dense fog, threatening to suffocate her courage. A simple email had evolved into a battleground, a fight between her aspiration and her memory. She could almost hear the echo of the dismissive critique that had once stung her deeply, the voice of a judge who had deemed her art unworthy. But this time was different. She reminded herself of the vibrant strokes she had laid down on her canvas the night before. Those colors represented her growth. Each hue was a testament to the lessons learned and the strength gained. She envisioned her work not as a commodity for validation but as a ledger of her journey, a narrative that deserved to be shared. Closing her eyes, she conjured the image of the gallery, filled with curious faces, her art a bridge to connect her soul with others. Finally, with a sharp exhale, she clicked send. Relief washed over her, coupled with an electrifying rush of anticipation. The hours that followed were a mix of anxiety and delight, each tick of the clock amplifying her internal chaos. She walked her studio like a caged animal, seeking signs of encouragement where none existed. Every time her phone chimed, her heart leaped only to plummet back down when it wasn't the response she craved. The uncertainty was almost unbearable, yet she found a strange comfort in the vulnerability that accompanied her decision. To ground herself, Emily picked up her sketchbook. She began doodling abstract shapes, allowing her mind to flow freely. Each stroke was a reminder of her essence as an artist, not defined by labels or perceptions but by the pure act of creation. The sketches served as a meditative practice, allowing her to reconnect with the joy she felt in the art itself. Days later, while enjoying her ritual of coffee and creativity, a notification finally appeared. The message seemed to pulse under her fingertips as she clicked open. The gallery expressed their excitement about her application, inviting her for an interview. The thrill was immediate, but soon the shadow of anxiety loomed again. What if they saw her work in person and it fell short of their expectations? As she prepared her portfolio for the upcoming meeting, a small voice flickered within her, a memory of the previous rejection. It whispered doubts clouded with self-judgment. The fear felt familiar and insidious, clawing back at her confidence. But now, confronted with the challenge of the gallery, Emily chose to confront this anxiety head-on. She wouldn't allow it to dictate her worth. The day before the interview, she set aside time to revisit her newest piece. Standing before the canvas, she sought the deeper meaning behind her art. What if this piece spoke not just to her but also to those who would view it? She consciously stepped away from self-doubt, focusing instead on the storyline of passion, struggle, and triumph embedded within every layer. The interview loomed like a storm, yet Emily felt ready to embrace it. Perhaps this was her moment to redefine herself, not merely as Emily the painter, but as a confident artist prepared to navigate the unpredictable tides of criticism and praise alike. The morning of the interview, she transformed her anxiety into affirming energy, donning her favorite outfit, a blend of comfort and expressiveness. As she stepped outside, the crisp air invigorated her, each breath filling her lungs with determination. With each step towards the gallery, she felt an inviting flame flicker within, whispering of new opportunities. What would she discover about herself in that meeting? The anticipation thrilled her, paving the way for not just revelation but transformation. As the large doors loomed ahead, an unbidden question formed in her mind. Was she ready to confront the truth of her art in the presence of those who could fundamentally shift her trajectory? The moment to find out was about to unfold. Emily stood at the threshold of the gallery, her heart thrumming with a fervor she hadn't felt in years. The last few weeks had been transformative. She had embraced vulnerability, confronted self-doubt, and forged a deeper connection with her artistic voice. Now, this moment stood before her, like an opportunity carved out of the very essence of her journey, the culmination of years of struggle, growth, and redemption. The gallery doors opened, revealing a spacious, sunlit interior adorned with vibrant pieces from budding artists. Her nerves buzzed, yet an undercurrent of exhilaration anchored her. As she entered, a welcoming figure approached Martha, the gallery curator, whose distinguished eye for talent and authenticity had built reputations for countless artists. Emily, Martha greeted with a warm smile that felt like the embrace of shared dreams. Thank you for coming. I was excited to see your work in person. With each passing moment inside the gallery, the initial tension began to loosen, replaced by a sense of purpose. Emily felt empowered as she presented her artwork. The pieces told stories that reached beyond mere visuals, encapsulating the rawness of emotions born from her journey. Your confidently expressed themes of resilience and authenticity are striking, Martha remarked, her gaze sweeping over the canvases. Tell me about your process. As Emily spoke, an unexpected clarity bloomed within her. The doubts that had once shrouded her voice began washing away, replaced by a new narrative. This art was a testament to her triumph over adversity, not merely a plea for acceptance. She articulated the fears portrayed within the swirls of paint, the chaos illustrating her struggle and the vibrant hues representing the hope she had come to embody. Martha listened intently, her openness amplifying Emily's confidence. You convey more than just artistic skill. You demonstrate a profound connection to your work. The affirmation was like salve on wounds once deep. With each interaction during the meeting, Emily expanded upon the intricate layering of her inspirations, the influence of her grandmother's legacy, her relationship with Jake, and how these elements interwove seamlessly in both her art and her life. She realized she wasn't just sharing her work. She was unveiling her soul. And you've captured something universal, Martha continued. That is what art should do: evoke, inspire, and connect. As the conversation flowed, Emily reveled in the validation of her journey. This wasn't merely about being accepted into the gallery. It was about claiming her identity as an artist and a mother, boldly standing firm in the spaces she had once feared to tread. Eventually, the discussion culminated with the gallery's proposal, a solo exhibition showcasing her work. The initial disbelief sent ripples through her, but then it settled into a profound sense of accomplishment. This was a recognition she had longed for, not as an escape from obscurity but as an affirmation of her hard-won journey. You're supremely talented, Emily. Let us work together to make this happen. In that moment, her heart swelled with pride. She reflected on her evolution. Once restricted by the weight of expectations, she had unraveled the tight coils of self-doubt, emerging into a light that illuminated her path forward not only for herself, but as a source of inspiration for Jake. That evening, as Emily shared the news with Jake, his face radiated joy. "You did it, Mom," he exclaimed, hugging her tightly. The bond they had forged over the weeks stood firm, the art they had created together a thread that tied their dreams and ambitions. "Yes, together," she echoed, understanding that this triumph belonged to both of them. They'd faced the winds of doubt and emerged stronger. Fear and vulnerability had become catalysts for their shared journey. With the exhibition on the horizon, Emily poured herself into her art with renewed vigor. Each brushstroke became an act of devotion to her narrative, each idea a bold proclamation of her identity. Gone were the days of timidly blending into the background. She firmly claimed her place within the art world, ready to embrace not only the accolades but also the criticisms that could come. Through fierce determination and growth, Emily transformed fear into fuel, vulnerability into strength. The exhibition stood as an invitation not just for others to view her art, but for her to celebrate the remarkable resilience she had built over the years. And in that embrace of her journey, Emily discovered that true fulfillment lay not in the accolades or the external validation but in the courage to step into her light, unleashing her creativity into the world without apology. This was the moment she had waited for, an acknowledgement of her artistry, a culmination of her narrative, and above all, a triumphant embracing of her own authenticity. Now, with the gallery preparations in full swing, she looked forward to many more moments of truth awaiting her as she boldly moved ahead, ready to shape her destiny, brush by brush. Everyone deserves to claim their story. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that beckon. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover transformative tales like Emily's. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Emily's journey. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the cathartic power of personal triumph. Support matters in the world of storytelling.